photographer by nature, and welcome back to my channel where we do like to talk everything ranging from hair, lifestyle, and just dealing with different feelings and emotions. So if that's something that you guys can relate to, then you should definitely subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell. It was last week I had posted a video and I titled it called Let's Talk, and it was talking about let's talk, dealing with letting go of the past hurt or whatever. And that's where I dived in a little bit about my story about going through a divorce, and I got a lot of good feedback from it. A lot of people liked the video, so I decided to continue on with doing these Let's Talk sessions. So this time we're going to be talking about another topic that is very near and dear to me, because it is something that I have dealt with and still deal with now, just not as much as it was before. But we're going to talk about something that even this past week, I've been seeing a lot of people post some stuff about it on Facebook and Instagram, and I've also had some of my friends reach out to me even this past week concerning this topic, and that is depression. So I actually made sure that I wrote down the points so I wouldn't forget something that I want to talk about concerning this topic, because like I said, this is a topic that is near and dear to me, and this is also something that a lot of people deal with, and so I just want to make sure that I touch bases on everything that I wanted to say concerning this topic. So let's just start off with some basic stuff of what depression is. So the dictionary definition of depression is a common and serious medical illness that negatively affects how you feel, the way you think, and how you act. Which, if you ask anybody what depression is, they would probably say the same thing, minus the whole medical illness part. Depression does affect the way that you feel, the way that you act, how you go about your daily life, and things of that nature. So the first point that I wanted to talk about is when I first realized that I was dealing with depression. So around my middle school, high school years, that's actually when I began to start paying attention to guys, noticing guys, and dating. And then in middle school, that's when I first started my first, towards the end of middle school is when I first started my first real relationship, which lingered on into my high school year. And then once we broke up, I started another relationship with a guy. It was maybe like a year or so later after that, but I started another relationship with a guy who ended up being my first. So, and that relationship lingered on into my college years. So those were my two long relationships that I had. And that's when I really began to notice that I dealt with depression. I began to notice that I actually cared about how people viewed me, what people thought about me, and that has a lot to do with puberty as well. But in my case, I just took it a step further than that. Instead of me, so basically the things that were going on would cause me to become so sad, to the point to where I would basically shut myself off, and I started even acting out in a certain way towards my family. Not that I was a bad kid or anything, but my attitude was completely horrible. And I often find sometimes that in the Black community, when a lot of people that deals with depressions or different things like that, the first thing that a lot of Black people always say is, oh, she just got an attitude problem, or he just got an attitude problem, blah 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 blah, which that could honestly be the case. They could honestly just have an attitude problem or something like that, but 9 times out of 10, most of the time, these people are acting out because these kids and teenagers are acting out because they're actually going through a lot of different things in life, and it's actually causing them to be depressed. You would be surprised at the amount of things that teenagers and young adults hold in, and even smaller children, that they hold in and they bottle up, and then especially when they try to express themselves to their parents or to any other adults that's around them, and they don't get the response that they want, they basically shut off all that bottled up energy. It sometimes can go to anger, but then that anger can also turn into sadness later on, and that was how it was with me. I felt like with the things that I was going on with, starting to mix up with guys or whatever, and then just trying to please my grandmother, who was my legal guardian, trying to please her, and then also trying to understand and build a relationship with my parents and stuff like that. Going through all that in my middle and high school years, it was just a lot of bottled up anger, emotion, and aggression that I had towards a lot of different situations and things that I was going through. And then I felt like whenever every time that I tried to talk to somebody about it or whatever, or let them know how I felt like they shut me down, and basically the way that I was feeling was not that important, and that I just need to be quiet. So I ended up being upset about it all because I didn't feel like nobody understood me, and that's when it progressed to people saying that I have an attitude problem, which ultimately I do have an attitude problem at times, but it was because I was dealing with a lot of emotions and feelings. And then once that progressed along, then I ended up becoming depressed. And so that's one of the main reasons why I went to school for psychology, because I wanted to understand why people act and think the way that they do. I wanted to understand why people responded the way that they did to me. And then I also want to understand why I responded the way that I did to other people. So that is why I ended up going to school for psychology, because I wanted to understand. I hate not understanding. And if you know me, I am the type of person where I'm going to ask a bunch of questions until I understand. And even if you get upset with me, I'm still going to ask those questions, but then I'm going to feel some type of way because you got upset with me because I was asking you questions. That's just a tangent I went on. But yeah, like it's I went through all of that, high school, middle school, and then college. It seemed to get a little bit worse, but my high school years was where the depression was really bad. I even at times contemplated suicide, and my way of I wanted to go about was I wanted to take pills, and I wanted to just take enough pills to die. And I would try it at times, and every time I took it, it just never worked for me. Like, I would just go into a deep sleep, and that would be it. So I know that God had a purpose for me to be here, but yeah, I did contemplate those suicidal thoughts, and that's when I began to realize that I needed to pay attention to how I was reacting, what triggers me to become this way, and what sets me in those depressive states. So once I began to recognize that I do deal with depression, then it wasn't just the fact that I have an attitude problem and things like that, that I began to be more aware of my depression. I'm able to handle it. So the way that I handled it back in high school is not the way that I handle it now. Of course, I still deal with depression now, but it's not as prevalent in my life as it was in my high school, college days. Like now, I don't necessarily get depressed like I did then, but I still have those moments where I do become depressed. And so I already kind of touched base on this and what I was saying at first, but how depression is viewed in the Black community. It amazes me, and I don't know if it's just the Black community, but I mean, of course I'm Black, so I'm gonna say what I see in my community, but a lot of times it's often downplayed, and it's normally people just say that you're acting out or that you're just angry, and they're not aware of the fact that people actually do deal with extreme emotions of sadness, and because they're not aware of that, they don't pay attention until it's late. In some cases, till it's too late, and the person be done, took their life, or either done hurt themselves really badly, or either they're too far gone out into it that there's no bringing them back. And to me, that's very sad. And I just think that it's important that we have to be aware of the fact that depression is real. It happens. And that you should always check up on your friends, check up on your family members, regardless of the fact that a person can say that they're happy or that they're doing good. Sometimes people deal with stuff and they don't want people to know. And that's how I was. I would even tell people that I'm okay, and I could look okay. I could be laughing and talking to you and everything, but once I get to myself, it's like all those thoughts, those emotions, those feelings, all of those came back to me, and sometimes I would just lay down and cry. And like even to this day, with me still dealing with depression a little bit, like sometimes I get into my modes where I be missing my family because I don't stay near my family anymore. And so I be missing my family, and then I just be going through the emotions of just doing stuff on a daily basis. And then I just begin to realize that I just start getting really tired, sleeping a lot, and things like that. And then that's when I'm aware of the fact that I'm basically putting myself in that state. And so then I realized that I have to actually try to do something to get out of that before I get so far going into it where it's like a a week thing of me getting a couple of weeks of me even getting out of it. And so that leads me into my next thing of talking about what triggers my depression.